Good morning. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, and sisters and aunts and grandmothers and everybody who's contributing in their way. Um, this morning, we thought, and I want to say before I jump into that, Happy Mother's Day to Katie. She's doing her thing today. We'll miss her, but I'm sure she'll be with us energetically, and we're sending love and light her way. And we'll see her soon, I'm sure. And we thought we'd talk today about the idea of unity, consciousness, oneness, any way that you want to say that. And so we hope you'll join us and share your comments, any insights that you have, and look forward to this hour. So here we go. What do you guys think? Anything that immediately comes into your space when with the idea of oneness or unity consciousness?
I remember the first time I heard the term, and it was actually in that retreat where I had my first awakening. And I remember there's a side talk of oneness, and I'd never heard that term before. It was just not something that I was familiar with. But once we did a meditation and we went around the room and connected heart to heart with each other. And that idea, it wasn't unity, it wasn't us, it was one. And that idea of separating or taking away boundaries didn't exist. There was no separation. There was no us versus them. For me, that seemed like that's where we want to get. That is the goal of evolution, is to get to oneness. And it was such a profound idea that I had never heard about before.
That makes me think of ego versus soul. Like the ego always separating, and the soul being part of that oneness, part of that divine energy, creation energy, source energy. There's so many different things we could call it. We could give it a lot of different names and use a lot of different words, but that's what came in. It was funny that you mentioned that the way that you did, because that was the first thing that sort of opened up for me when Kat said oneness and unity consciousness. It immediately came in, that aspect of ego versus soul, and how we really are only separating ourselves from it ever because we are of it naturally. It's innate. It's how we're created. It's what we are. That's a fun thought too.
Yeah, it
is. It's so cool. I was going to say the same thing, actually, that basically that the illusion, that it is an illusion. Any separation, any idea, any feeling that way, it's an illusion. And I believe it's an illusion on purpose. It's part of this plane and
the experience.
Part of the experience, part of the game. And it makes it an interesting question if you think about, for me, when you're talking about evolution of the soul, and you have to get to this place. And then also in the same conversation, the idea that we are of this place. We are from this place. We are of this place. We cannot be divine. We can have the illusion of lack of divinity, lack of abundance, lack of all the things, right? And if it's an illusion, then how does that impact the idea of we have to get to this place? If we are of this place, if we are of the divine, if we are divine, if we're coming here to have an experience, to grow, to learn, to be able to understand in a different way, to be able to embody, literally in the body, embody the experience, which is a different experience than the energetic experience. Those two go together and they don't go together. You know what I mean? There's a disconnect there.
So I told you I did a life between lives regression a couple days ago with a student who was getting her degree from Atlantic University. And this was one of the topics that she asked me when I was in trance. What was the point of coming back into the body? What was my soul trying to accomplish? Because I explained, I felt the afterlife and I felt the divinity of it. We're all in resonance with each other. We're all completely connected, but yet we have our own frequency. So the way I explained it was that frequency has levels. You radiate at different levels. You emit at different levels. And every time you come and you learn lessons, it radiates a little bit higher till it gets to eventually the creation frequency, which is when you're just now one with creation versus any sort of separation. I feel that that's the goal for souls as they move. And that's one of the reasons we come back, so that we're adding to our own frequencies. We're starting to resonate faster and higher.
Yeah. I was seeing the ascension spiral while you were.
Yes. And that was what was in my field earlier, was the DNA, the overlap between the DNA structure, the idea of frequency, the electromagnetic field that goes around the planet. All of it is so perfectly in alignment that to me, it's definitely a part of evolution. We're absolutely connected. There is no separation from us, but we evolve.
Mhm.
We evolve to resonate at a higher level. I think that's the point of the journey. That's why new souls are constantly being created, or new energy is constantly being created, because creation never ends. It doesn't die. It's constantly just transmuting and building more and more and more.
Such a cool, beautiful thing to be a part of. And so how does the conscious awareness of all that shift the way that you show up?
That's a great question.
In every way. In every way. It makes it more joyful. I think for me, more than anything else, understanding the bigger picture, that this is not a punishment, that I'm not alone, that I will come back and it will be another joyful experience. For me, it takes away a lot of that fear, and it allows me to be happy regardless of what's happening in my life.
What about you, Kat?
I would say there's certainly the choice for that always, right? Awareness doesn't always equal, but the choice is there, and the choice is there. And I think that there's a lot of work between awareness and practice, and the sorts of deep, meaningful changes in being, ways of being and interacting, that we get to. I also think that for me, it's changed. Everything. I'm trying to pick a place to land. There's here. I guess the one I want to talk about is crossing over, the letting go of the physical body, which I don't even call death anymore. It just seems silly to me. Death of the body, of the shell. I don't even know if that's accurate, because it doesn't really. It never had a life of its own. It's a temporary house for this time round in the journey. And so yeah, just letting go of the physical body. And it changes the way that I feel about that. And it changed because it doesn't change. It doesn't end a relationship. It doesn't, depending on who crosses over. This is going to sound like I think it can, not always, but I think it can deepen a relationship.
Amen to that.
What?
Amen to that.
Yeah.
I've experienced it.
Yeah. It's interesting, all the places that I've become aware of that as on this side of the veil, that we pick and choose things to create fear around. And I understand why the things, it would be easy if one was living in ego and feeling separation to experience challenging feelings about a lot of the experiences on this plane. I'm sorry, I get distracted because I'm going to say something and then I start to hear something about it and I just get lost in that. Try to stay focused here. So I think I think that it would be a fantastic thing if we could celebrate all of the parts while we're here. The challenges, the things that seem less challenging, birth, conception, gestation, birth, all of the parts once the body is on its own in this 3D plane, the new body, and then the winding down and the coming to terms and the beginning to ready for, it's kind of like the opposite of gestation. We need a word for that. We don't have one. Where we start to prepare for our transition back to the other side. That should be celebrated also, I feel like. And
it should be. And damn if it's not bringing up just some memories and insights about the way that we have completely lost, thrown away, mishandled. Boy, I've got a lot of emotion coming up. You bringing that into the conversation, honoring the winding down, the agedness, because we don't do that anymore. We just throw people in homes and over medicate them and let them die. So there's I'm hearing like a large facet of unity consciousness coming back online with the awareness of this. And that we are going to be not only healing ourselves, and we know this, like healing ourselves, healing the aged before they die, healing our entire lineage and the lineage to come by honoring them, by keeping them in the fold. And this all happens through a complete blasted newness of this awareness that we've also forgotten and what health really means, and the divinity that we hold and how to honor that in the body, in the physical body, and keep ourselves well as humans, because we are also innately well.
Innately well, innately, literally magic, innately able to do what's been in my space a lot lately with regard to, oneness, is I'm not religious. I don't have a religious background, is what I'm trying to say. I was raised in a very fluid space with regard to that. So I don't have a lot of even information, to be honest, about generalities, right? But not a lot of specific information, and certainly an awareness of what the different practices and beliefs, kind of the very general overview and sort of what they feel like in a lot of ways, but not specific knowledge. And I know this much about Jesus, and whether you. I'm not even sure how to talk about this. This is not a practice that I have on a regular basis. That what's been in my space lately is the divinity that we all are of, which I don't doubt for a moment. I know that down through all of me. And coming back to the idea of oneness here, that what is opening up for me, I guess is the best way to put it. Sorry, I'm taking too long. What is opening up for me is the idea that my language is going to be all screwy around all this because this is the first time. So bear with me, and I apologize.
Get it out. You're in a safe space.
I'll get it. I'll get it down. It will start. This is how it comes to light for me, is the speaking. And as I hear it, just like when I'm listening to other people, I will hear things and I will be like, well, that needs to be tweaked a little. The same thing happens as the words are coming out of my mouth. So with that little disclaimer, here we go. I don't believe that Jesus was a religious figure specific to one particular religion. I believe I'm coming to believe that he was no different than us, kind of. Here's what I mean by that. I mean, he was definitely human, and he was here to teach divine message, and not to do magic to show us that there's a God, magic, I call it, whatever, but to do magic to teach us that literally all of us can do literally what he did. Mm-hmm. That when we connect to divine, we have access to divine. When we don't buy into the illusion of separation, we can literally walk on water. We can literally create every single thing that we need, call in all the food and the sustenance and in all the ways that we need it, and heal what we need to heal, or ideally get to the place where you never need to heal anything, because you never get to that place where you're living in oneness, in unity with what we are, without the illusion of separation on this plane, without buy-in to that illusion of separation, and experience this plane in an entirely different way, to the point where your vision actually changes. Everything that you see around you begins to look different, and the awareness of the true oneness, the where there's, and I've had moments of this just very recently where I was paddleboarding actually, and there was no separation. Yeah. I was in the river. The river was in me. I could literally see what was under there. I could feel the air moving in with and through me, and I was part of it. And I was communicating with the beings all around me, and made some requests that were, I'll spare you all the details. This is actually a detail I should share. I was going to say I'll spare you all the details, but this is kind of awesome. The peace, the joy, the bliss, that would be the word, utterly blissed out beyond what I could possibly describe, period, ever. Our language doesn't have, there's no way to describe what I was experiencing as I was floating down the river. And bald eagles and great blue herons and Harris hawks and other beings, the trees, the little birds on the cliffs, that just everything all around. And I look up and there's this big bald eagle I didn't know sitting on the top of the cliff. I hadn't seen a bald eagle in this place. I didn't know that they were in the desert, and just wasn't really even. I was going to ask for something, and I thought to myself, some version of that just seems selfish, like it's a magic show, like just let it go, commune, whatever. And then I said from my heart space, I wish you could show me what you do. Meaning, just like, who are you? What is your life like? How do you spend your time? What do you do? And on to the next, communing with everybody that came into my awareness. And not 5 minutes later, there's a bald eagle on the left shore of the river standing there, big bird. And I was like, wow, there must be two of you. Or is that you? No, I don't think that was you. Right after I have the thought, I don't think you're the same bird, same being. The one that had been on the cliff off to my right comes swooping down from behind me, wings outstretched at an angle like this, so comes around so I can see all of him coming around in front of me, and then right off my left shoulder swoops down, grabs a fish, so I can see all of this, and I see this beautiful rainbow trout. I mean, this all happened right in front of me. I could identify what fish it was, and then swoops off up with a like just a beautiful supportive giving is what it felt like, and I'm still utterly in awe. I am floored by this experience because it was a gift. It was given. There was communication that came with it that was just supportive of the space of unity is what it was. And it's the gift that keeps on giving. I could talk about this, all the details of the story for like a very long time. I'm not going to, don't worry. But my friend, Courtney Harrison, who I love to death, was behind me on a paddleboard a ways back on the river, and she's taken pictures. And she takes pictures every time we go to the river. And the things that show up in the pictures from time to time, even the light anomalies, the orbs, the absolute dancing and moving around of beings that show up in these pictures when I am in that space.
Mm-hmm.
It was the coolest gift to be able to see, because I remember the trip down the river, and I remember what I was feeling and where and whatnot. And she mentioned it to me. She said, "Oh, you should see the," I don't remember what she called it. "You should see the cool stuff that showed up in the pictures." And I was like, "Oh, cool, whatever." She showed them to me later, and I was like, "What? Oh my gosh." I was not prepared for what I was going to, I had no conception of how much was going to show up in those pictures. And it corresponds, wild horses all over this river. Like, there's just, it's so beautiful. But the feelings when beings show up, there was a day, we've gone to this river a bunch of times and we never go upriver. We don't float upriver, right? Who floats upriver? But we did one day. We were literally being carried around the river by the wind, and shown things from a different perspective, turned backwards, and given all kinds of messages. And it's part of the reason all these stories, they're part of the reason why this is in my space this morning and every day really now. The awareness of how we can change our state of being, all of our states of being, the physical, the energetic, emotional, like all of it. Just like that, just like that, super easily, quickly. And we make everything so difficult. We tell these stories about everything being so, you have to work to achieve to whatever. And I don't think that's actually true, because I've done some work. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I've lived into, is what I would say. I've comfortably sat down into who I am and lived into that, which is different than I've worked really hard. Right. And that happens to me quite by accident. No such thing. But as my human describing, I didn't go to the river with the intention of having those experiences. I let go and allowed. And that's easy.
Yeah.
That's my story.
But when you're talking, especially about the Jesus, and I've studied quite a bit about Jesus and Mary Magdalene from a spiritual versus a religious perspective. And one of the things that I've read and really resonated with me, and I got new information while you were speaking. So tell me if this resonates with you.
I love this.
So what I saw was Jesus and Mary Magdalene came down at that time with 144,000 souls attached to them. 144 is the number of unity. That's what 144 means. It means unity. So whether it was 144 or 144, 100,000, I don't really know. But souls came together to create the number of unity and came down embodied in these forms in order to create in the consciousness and the awareness of the planet unity, oneness. They came down embodying oneness to implant it into the memory, into the awareness of Earth, so that it could start to seed out. And all those souls that were attached to those bodies are coming back now specifically. There were so many of them so that they could go out and seed the planet when it was time for unity to come back into existence on a global shift level. And that's what I was seeing when you're talking. I knew about the number of souls that came down, but when you were talking about Jesus, like, of course, that's why you had that number of souls, because it was for oneness.
I was just getting a cool message too about the way that when these souls come back down to the earth, they are drawn to those points on the planet, back into connection with I mean, you know how it is when you go anywhere on the earth and commune with the earth with intention, you're creating a vortex. You're creating an energy signature is what I'm hearing for yourself that others can vibrate into if they're in resonance with that. And that's really how any vortex would work. But our ability to do that is also innate. But that was interesting hearing that aspect of it, like being called back to the places on the planet where even those pioneer consciousness seeders, right? Like that just, I don't know, we're making up the language at this point, but that's sort of what we do here. So cheers.
Cheers to that.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody who's been, a lot of people are talking about it. This is a massive time. Now, whether that's a massive time of 3 lifetimes, I have no idea. But so much power has come back at this time. So many shifts, so much change, and what appears to be chaos, which is really just a reorganization, a realigning of the universal DNA. It all makes sense. So much of this ancient wisdom is coming back up. It's reappearing. There's people out there talking about this stuff. Feeling that oneness is just natural now. It's not even something you have to seek. It can come to you while you're just enjoying the day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all connected in such a beautiful, beautiful way.
It's a beautiful way to live. Nothing feels better.
Yeah.
There's no, I mean, it sounds like such a trite, ridiculous, obvious, duh statement, but there's no better way to live. And I think it's so funny because there's societally, I believe, a certain amount of trepidation that exists with embracing all of the kinds of ideas that we talk about here.
Connectedness and the oneness and the unity and the consciousness.
Yeah.
How many of those things get just like a label slapped on them, like new age?
New age.
Just let someone use that term around me one more time. I can't. I've lost all ability to take that conversation seriously because we're talking about ancient wisdom. We're talking about lineage that goes back.
Creation, literally, since the beginning.
Like, where
you bought
that? Like, why did you buy that?
Mm-hmm.
Don't buy it.
But so many of us work so very hard there's a whole language and culture created around separating us through language and socialization, verbalization and socialization, separating us from the whole that we arrive as, the whole being, the whole loving, knowing, connected being that we arrive here as, so much effort is put into creating the illusion of separation, which, you know, is joined by or followed by immediately is joined with the doubt and the fear and the shame, and all of those things come in. And it's, I mean, we work hard at it. We do. We work hard at it. It takes a lot to accomplish that.
Yeah.
So,
You think the basis of lack. There's not enough food for everybody, so I got to get mine. There's not enough money for everybody, so I have to make more. There's not enough jobs for everybody, so we have to compete. These wonderful little things that they put in there, which they say is to make you work harder to achieve more, is part of that illusion. It's part of that illusion of separation. That to say that there is not enough in the world for everybody. What the hell? Says who?
And if we're all trying to be the same human being, if we're all trying to have the same ideas, say the same things, do the same things, show up exactly the same way, then you are going to experience lack. Because 500 million people, I don't actually, that's a ridiculous number, but 500,000 people, whatever, can't all do the exact same thing at the exact same place. We're not meant to. We're meant to come here with our divine design, our divine uniqueness, the full beauty of who we are, the full expression of all we're capable of individually. It's like a Tetris game. If every one of those blocks came down and it was exactly the same, actually it would make the game easier, but
only if it's a straight line. Like it has to be the blocks or the straight lines. If it's those little screwy things, you're screwed. You'll never win.
So that analogy doesn't really work. But
you mean the ones that you try to turn and you never can get them quite turned, and then they just stick out like this?
Yeah,
those pieces are terrible. But I totally get what you mean. I always look at it like a puzzle piece. All right, we're each our own pieces, and together we make the whole picture. Now, we don't know what the picture is unless the pieces come together, which is where that unity comes in.
Yeah.
And one of our two cool things is that both science and spirituality are saying the same thing. Science has proven that unity is real based on the energy signature of the bodies. Our energy is constantly connected and touching everything else. It's touching the planet's energy. It's touching the energy of the water, of the air. We are never separated, ever.
Never separated. Can't be.
Can't be.
All the same.
Possible.
They don't separate.
Yes.
And I acknowledge what you say. Science has proven.
Absolutely
It also
proven.
makes me go, ugh.
I know.
Because
take that next step. So what does that mean?
Yeah,
Where's
we don't need science to prove.
No. You know what? That's
everything.
such a fun. I love that. Thank you for even just saying that.
We don't need divinity goes much further than science goes. All of the things that we have access to, science comes from divinity, not the other way around. And it's the doubting human that needs that. I'm not saying science has no place on this plane. That is not what I'm saying.
Yeah, no.
But we don't need it to prove things that if we just allow ourselves to fully experience, we know, we experience, and science is such a wonderful thing, and it's done so much damage to people as well who are sitting in a place of doubt and fear and lack and waiting for this to be proven or that to be proven. Or I'll never forget, I was watching, I'll leave all the names out in case it's a problem, but I was watching a show where there's a medium who does his thing, and there was a doctor who is like, this can't be. Science hasn't proven this. This can't be. But he has had the experience with this man who does this, and he knows. It's kind of funny to watch, because what I would say is he absolutely knows it's real, but he's looking for all the reasons why it's not. Mm-hmm. Where's the trick? Where's the wizard behind the curtain, right? even though he has a relationship with this guy now and has acknowledged that it's real. So they did all kinds of scientific tests and actually were able to measure different things happening in the brain waves of this individual that are not happening in the brain waves of any of us when we're not in that connected state. And what he left, so he kind of proved there's something happening there if you need to prove. But in his inability to believe, to trust, to enter the space of love and have faith, he kind of left the entire conversation with a statement analogous to, well, there's no way that we can know whether or not any of this is real. We've shown X, but we can't definitively, like, God did not
have the experience. What are you
in the MRI scan? And, you know, and I mean, I don't even know what, no scientist would want that, but it just, you know, it's insane. Honestly, it's a little insane.
That's
and
the ego.
When you hear the people who are acknowledged as really the greatest scientists of our time in their respective fields, almost without exception, saying that when they get to a certain place in their career, they all become believers if they weren't before, because there is no other way. There's no way to discount that. There's no, you know, it's all too perfect. It's all too aligned. It's all too, that is not the result of an accident or a coincidence over and 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 over. So I would like to make a call to encourage everybody out there to start doing a real exploration of this universe, this plane that exceeds science, goes beyond the limitations of science, and allow yourself to have a full experience of what's actually here on this plane.
And please let us remind you that your intuition does not need a works cited page.
Well said. References. That was a hard one for me to take that leap and say, you know what? It doesn't matter if you've never heard this information before. I've never seen it either. It doesn't matter.
That's one of the most brilliant things I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah, that's
Joe wrote it down. We were having this conversation yesterday. I love that this is all like weaving together. It's in everybody's field. We were just talking yesterday about this, and we were having the ego versus soul conversation and really getting deep into like defining, right? What is ego? What is soul? Because, you know, scenarios and context and all this, you'd be like, well, if I did this, this, and this, would that be my ego wanting to? And I'm like, okay, we'll look at it from this way. And then you answer the question, you know, like having that conversation and getting into the whole intuition side of it and talking about, you know, the way that things show up for you and the fact that we are so far ahead and that you can have downloads and gain information, receive wisdom and clarity, and then realize that, you know, if you go fact check yourself, which, like I said, your intuition doesn't need a works cited page, but this is what you find, that, oh my gosh, if I go look up on Google what I just received, and you're like, holy shit, that's real.
Yeah.
That is you being in unity consciousness. That is receiving and being open and allowing and being in the oneness and allowing your intuition, which is all soul, to show up for you in that way. And it's like validate you before you even validate yourself. You know?
And it's a tool we all have. We all arrive here with that. It's a tool that that is designed to be used for navigation. It's not a navigational tool. What'd you say, Chris?
I said Google. Google is a tool we all have.
Yeah.
Use DuckDuckGo now. Don't use Google anymore. Google's.
Well, we've all been there, and you're 100% right. You get to a point where you don't need to fact check yourself anymore, and that is a cool feeling. And these conversations, the stuff that comes out, I guarantee you, I haven't thought of consciously before. but I trust it when it comes out. And Kat, on the brain scan things, I saw this done during meditation. They had people hooked up to the different brain scans. And when a person was in a balanced meditative state, the right and the left brain balance, it actually looked like the shape of a woman. It was like a female curves. But there was another level. If they reached what they called unity, it was a complete circle. The brain scan turned into a circle on both sides, completely balanced in what they called unity, oneness brain. And I just thought when you were saying that, I was like, I completely forgot about that. But
How cool.
so true. Our brains are demonstrating what we already know on a intuition basis, is that when we go into meditative states, that we are changing our DNA, our makeup. And when you reach that level, you're in balance. You are your natural state of oneness. I just think that's so cool.
And the cool thing to do, this is what's next. The cool thing for me to do is to carry that out into your waking conscious functional life, to be able to show up in that space all the time, is to turn life into a meditative experience, into that balanced, calm, peaceful, accessible, nope, not accessible, because that implies separation. Calm, peaceful, balanced state of
Harmonized state, not balanced. Balanced implies separation too.
Yeah.
I like that. That is the next level. That's balance squared, harmony.
Harmony.
Yeah.
Yeah. Harmony. If you balance, you could add or subtract, and subtracting is always separation. So no more balance.
Yeah.
Balance we throw out the window. We don't need it.
And it goes back to the frequency and the DNA, harmony. Everything's in harmony. I like it.
I do too. That's perfect. That feels right. Yeah. I mean, to be able to show up that way, I cannot even imagine the ripple effect that would have.
Oh, but you can.
No, what did you say?
You can imagine.
I can.
Just breathe
No,
about it.
I can't. I can allow for, absolutely. I don't know that I can yet fully. I can imagine, but I would not have, with my imagination, imagined how amazing my experience was already. It was so much more. I just, the ripples that would have, that all of the other beings, people not being ones that look like this, but all the people, the tree people, the dog people, the bird people, the cat people, the insect people, all of the people, nobody any more than anybody else, all of the people that would impact, the relationships that you would have. Because I've got relationships with what people would call wild animals, which is so right now.
I love you so much. She said wild animals.
I can't. I know. I just can't.
I love it.
The increase in your everything. What wouldn't that impact?
Well, what I'm hearing from Spirit right now, and this is something for you to start doing, for all of us to start doing, is when you are connected to the oneness, ask the other creatures, the other animals, the other people to take that energy and share it, just to hold on to it as they move and allow it to filter out, so that everything, that they're like little messengers of unity consciousness.
They do that.
Oh, absolutely.
That's their natural state of being. That's their space. That's their. When we show up and join them, then we access. Then we're in it with them. They're literally always in that state, and literally always sharing it with us. Always coming again and again and again to give opportunity to wake up, to share, to see, to support. It's so funny because we think of ourselves as these, I think a lot of humans think of themselves as these higher beings, that they're capable of something else on some level. And that's just not true. in any way, shape, or form. And the rest of the natural world, because we're just a part of it, we're also animals. The fact that we think we're not is absolutely ludicrous. The rest of the natural world is an open space of invitation for us to join as soon as we're able. And I'm sorry, there's a lot there. I'll just leave it right there because that goes a whole other direction.
But I think this filters back to what Steph was talking about also about creating vortexes now in this current space. That's what I feel you're doing, both as your home. You've got that vortex in the back, but also in this, wherever you're going kayaking or paddleboarding, you're creating vortexes of energy, which will both attract the beings that need to be there, but also allow it to filter out through the water systems, through the root systems, through everything else. And we create these vortexes just by harmonizing in our natural state. We have the power to connect vortexes anywhere that we want to.
Well, that'd be fantastic because there are a lot of people floating down that river.
Yeah, absolutely. And the water's got memory. So every time you're connecting, the water is holding on to that experience more powerfully than people who aren't paying attention. And there's, I always think of consciousness versus unconscious as focus. So focused energy will always be more powerful than unfocused energy just because it is in fact focused.
Yeah.
So having that focused experience is going to be more powerful than people who are just floating down, not thinking, just letting thoughts flip through. It's going to have more of an impact on the environment. So you're creating those. And when I said connect vortexes, I wasn't even thinking that. I was thinking create, but we 100% connect those vortexes as well. You create them in your home and you connect them to vortexes across the world and allow that energy to filter in the real dimension, which has no time and space.
We're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the grid work.
Yeah, I like it. I've got tingles. I love the tingles. The tingle test always makes me happy when I talk to people about feeling like they're in alignment with whatever it is. Well, do the tingle test. How does it make you feel? Does it feel right when you say it? I'm like, oh, that feels kind of good when I say that. All right, tingle test. Simple. I like the simple things.
That's awesome. It is awesome when that happens. It just comes over all of you all at once.
What's the longest you've ever had tingles? Like they came and they stayed and they didn't go away.
Not very. Couple minutes probably. Why, have you had them for a long time?
I've had them for almost 5 before. It was like in a reading with someone. Just opening their record and connecting.
I've had them come and go and come and go and come and go and come and go and come and go, but I don't know that I've ever had 5 minutes of tingles.
I also had it not for probably 5 minutes, but I would say at least a good 3, maybe 4 in Mexico.
Being around collective energy definitely helps it last a lot longer.
Mm-hmm. It definitely does. I was by myself, but it didn't matter. It was because of where I was and the group and the.
But you weren't really by yourself.
Right. Yeah, no. No, that's such a cool experience, though. And you think, I don't know, part of me feels like, or maybe expected it to be kind of like, kind of like you feel a sneeze coming on and then you're aware of the sneeze and you start to think about the sneeze. And then if anybody offers you $1 or something stupid like that, it just goes away. So I sort of expected that to be the same, like when the full body tingle, and I'm talking like all the way up the back of the neck, all the way to the ankles, and you just are lit up from head to toe going, and then you realize it. And it's like, oh, are they going to leave now? Because I'm like, and they didn't. What is this magic?
I wonder what that does to your body. What kind of awesome magic that does to your body when you're in that state.
I'm hearing like crystallization
Yeah.
right out of the gate. And that I mean, it really does. This is taking me back. I'm seeing what Chris was talking about in the beginning about raising your frequency just a little bit every time you come into that unity state. And whether you're connecting with other people or connecting with a place on the planet or connecting with yourself and everything around, it doesn't matter. But what's raising your vibration is allowing you to have that feeling. I think every time that happens, that's a little upgrade. But to have, yeah, to have that and then to have it just not go away, that's a cool thought, Kat.
Yeah.
Like what's actually is it like continuing to happen and it's an amplified serving of crystallization?
I still feel it from before.
Yeah.
And it's almost like your cells are singing to you.
Harmony.
Yes.
That's funny. That keeps coming up.
Harmony and oneness. I mean, they go beautifully together.
Yeah.
I remember, I don't know if I could call it tingles, but there was a solid 2 weeks where I was more awake and connected than I'd ever been prior or since for that period of time. Just everything felt heightened. I was seeing rainbows everywhere. I felt connected to everything to a point where, it didn't world didn't feel quite real anymore. And it was a retreat. I was down in Virginia Beach doing a retreat. I felt like I was flowing. Everything was kind of in slow motion for days. To the point where I was like, is something wrong? Something.
Did I break it?
Break it.
I just walk out to the beach and I'm like, damn, I'm just like completely plugged into everything right now. It was such a addictive feeling that when it left, it felt like you were coming down from something like an adrenaline crash. But it's something I remember the feeling of, and I get it now in small dosages, but it changed my life forever. Being able to have that feeling of being connected, it's addictive because that's your natural state. You just feel so right and so at home when you're in that state.
I will never forget. That reminds me when I was going through cancer treatment and I was going to Virginia Piper Cancer Center here in Scottsdale that had a holistic program, and they were offering Reiki. And I had experienced Reiki before, but I have never before and never since experienced Reiki like I did from this man. I'm still not convinced he's from this plane, even, or was real. And I'm not even kidding. He knew things about me that I didn't know about me from the moment he walked into the room. The way that he communicated with me, what he helped me to see and brought forth in that time that I had with him, probably the most significant hour of my life. Certainly, I can't think. It was unbelievable. It was. It wasn't unbelievable. It was absolutely perspective shifting in every way. And there was time that I spent on that table with my eyes closed, laying down. And at the end of it, I had to get up and leave. And I couldn't find I was not in this dimension anymore. I couldn't find my, the way I'm going to say it is, what is accurate is, I was very aware of the illusion of everything around me, and I felt like I could have walked through things instead of around them. The air was even a real living thing that was full of things and moving in different ways. Everything around me was entirely different, and it stayed that way for probably 15 minutes. I had to just go sit down someplace. I couldn't even get in my car and leave. I was just absorbing what actually was around me versus the illusion in which I normally invest. and subscribed to all of the. It was
Wow.
it was. I don't know who that man was.
Not to tease, but I had that experience after watching The Matrix. And I'm very serious. I walked out of the movie theater and it was so plausible, not the idea of being hooked into machines, but the idea of waking up to the reality that everything's an illusion. It was so plausible to me at 19, I think it was when I saw this movie. I walked out of the movie theater and the world looked different. Some things were sharper, some things were very misty. And you could see the energy moving through the air. And it just took me a while to come back from that. It was like somebody had ripped a layer off of my eyes, and it's just freaking Matrix.
I think that especially this, maybe it can happen to absolutely everybody, but I think that if you're open to it anyway, I think especially those of us who are here to do this work, there are lots of opportunities for that to shift so that we can see what is actually.
We're going to have one of those today. I can feel it. It's going to happen. You'll have to text later. We're all going to have one today. I'm going to go sit in my hammock and work on that right now.
That sounds lovely.
You don't have to work on it though. It's easy.
Play with it. Play with it. Ease into it.
Comfortably sit back into it. Like you're sitting into a big easy chair of you. Because it is, right back to, we are all divine. We are of the divine. We're not like there was the divine and we got created. We are an extension of that divine, right? So just comfortably allow yourself to be you, to just be.
Yeah, a totally different layer of oneness than we even spoke about. It's that oneness of self.
Yes.
Yeah. It is profound. What's
not the Stardust spacesuit.
Right.
The fancy little vehicle.
Yeah. It's going to be, yeah. And that sense of calm that I'm feeling right now definitely plays into what you mentioned as well. It's almost, oh, sorry. I keep dropping the part. I ruined my own Zen moment. But it feels like really rooting into something, and rooting into like connecting to your energies in a much stronger way and just relaxing into it. It's very tranquil.
Any final thoughts on unity consciousness?
I think that the easiest way to get there is to find a state of bliss. Follow your heart to what blisses you out. That would be my final.
Yeah, because that is the real question. Like, okay, but how?
For me, I envision when I sit in meditation, it's almost like my cells dissolve, like they're melting out, and you just see them spreading out and connecting to everything. And as you connect out, you can feel it return its energy, like it's connecting back into you. It's all reciprocal. And I just love that feeling. Like the physical has now dissolved, and it's just just energy.
Sounds of nature really do it for me.
What'd you say? I can't hear you.
Sounds of nature.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Earth Symphony.
Mm.
And to just hear myself breathing as the like white noise behind all of that. I can hear it already, like laying next to the pond and the frogs and the crickets and the birds. And the birds, they sing back and forth across the pond, the different kinds of birds. And then, of course, there's like a mockingbird in there somewhere that's just messing with everybody. It's the coolest thing.
It cracks me up when right in the middle of that, you get the cell phone noise from a bird.
Yeah. Oh, I love this conversation.
Hmm.
I absolutely love it. And I hope that everyone who's been listening today has found some insight on maybe a new perspective of what unity really means, unity consciousness, and your place in that, your divinely created innate connection to all that is. It's powerful stuff.
Hmm.
And how you find that and the way that you walk into that and sit with that and be that is going to be unique to you. It's, again, a language. It's a language that you learn to experience.
Hmm.
It's less of a talk and more of a walk, I guess.
It's a beautiful way of describing it.
So thank you all. Thanks to everybody for joining us today. Thank you, ladies. Love you. Happy Mother's Day to everyone, to all the mothers of all the kinds, everyone that is stepping into a role of nurturing and love. And we will see you again. You can join us here every Sunday for Muses Live at 1 Eastern and 10 a.m. Pacific. Thanks so much, guys.